So those are the things that have changed, 5 things that have changed, 5 things that have stayed the same. 1, the podcast. We have been doing this every week. We haven't missed a week to my recollection.
No, we haven't missed a week.
The length has been about the same. Maybe the only thing that maybe changed was at the start. I think we had an ambition to have guests every week. Ultimately, that
Oh.
changed, but I think
Wow, I don't remember that.
I
But
think maybe that was just in my head. Ultimately, I think it's for the better because it allows us to do episodes like these. If we had had an episode where there was a guest every week, we would have had to make sure that the guest was, I guess, asking us more in-depth questions about what we're doing.
yeah, we would have had to have people that interview. We would have had to have David Letterman on 5 times or something.
Right. So, but as far as being able to keep this aspect of the project, it has maintained a high level of fidelity to what we originally intended. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
And if you think that's good, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you don't think it's good, that's fine too. You can let us know.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Next.
Number 2, we have the Use of Force series. Now, the Use of Force series is really interesting for us to talk about because it doesn't exist on YouTube, which is really our primary platform.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really exist on Instagram that much either.
Yeah.
We started off talking about the Use of Force stuff on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube casually. For those of you who have joined somewhere along the way, you may not know what the Use of Force thing is.
Yeah.
Use of Force refers to a separate, shorter podcast we do on all of our podcast platforms.
Right.
And
yeah, so it's on Podbean and Spotify and iTunes and etc. And the term use of force is something that's used by police departments. Specifically, we talk about the NYPD anytime that there is a use of force. And that would mean anything, any weapon, any animal, any physical interaction with someone that the NYPD is interacting with. And we looked at the last decade of these use of force reports. At the end of each use of force report, it talks about anyone that's been killed with a firearm by the NYPD. And so we've listed those all out. We've matched up the locations of those use of force reports with our walk routes, and then each week we discuss what happened in the incident that aligned with where we were walking.
That's right. So we have been doing this for each week that we have walked, and it was in response to George Floyd's death and the ensuing protests. We felt that it didn't feel correct for us to continue this project without doing something that referenced the energy that was that moment. It probably would have been something that we could have not done based on our current climate. You know, it has died down considerably relative to that moment in time, but it still wouldn't have seemed appropriate to us to just kind of wait it out because it felt like a really important moment and we wanted to synthesize it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I also think the way I would maybe say it is that the energy that was sparked very strongly during all the Black Lives Matter protests after the killing of George Floyd was something that I personally could tell was not sustainable for me. Going to protests every day or participating in some sort of type of activism that while I really appreciate it and I think it's really important, and I think there are people that for them that is sustainable, I think I know for myself that I'm not going to be able to keep that up. And I thought that these things that were being talked about were really important. And I also wanted to learn more about what the role of police in the lives of people of color is. I also wanted to learn more about what the role of police in general in society is, and incorporating something into our project, because we were already committing to do a year-long project, it made sense to try and find a sustainable action to incorporate into the project.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was less about like feeling like it was necessary for us to engage in this in some way, and more just like that I wanted to engage in it, but I wanted to engage in it in a way that was true to who I am and didn't feel like I was just jumping on a bandwagon of excitement that a lot of people had, and like energy that again was like very important, and I'm so glad that a lot of people were doing that. But I remember people asked us like, oh, are you gonna do a marathon length walk around like and do protests all day for the length of a marathon? And while that's like a really great idea, it just didn't feel, that felt like almost, not that we're making money, but like capitalizing on this tragic event and using other people's energy that really should be going towards fixing these issues and like getting those out, but like using it for our own personal gain. And I didn't want to do that. So yeah, I think challenging ourselves to, or not even challenge, like just giving ourselves the assignment to investigate, learn, and discuss one incident a week.
Yeah.
Has been a good way. I feel like I've learned a lot about the NYPD also,
Yeah.
and we've seen a lot of patterns. And I think at the end of the year, there's also going to be a lot of data to compile and digest.
Yeah. And I think adjacent to what Jesse's saying, the idea that it isn't just about going to an event and representing a position one way or the other. It is about understanding at a personal level how we feel based on investigations of our own. That felt really important because for both of us, I think we generally side on the idea of equality for all. I mean, and justice. I mean, things that are platitudes in some way, but we want to be able to have specific understandings of why that is. And in order for us to have those specific understandings, we need to invest some of our own energy into understanding the specific circumstances of some of these incidents. And so that's what we've done for the past 39 weeks, found a bunch of different ones, and they range on a week-to-week basis, where sometimes there will be incidents where there is a clear instance of abuse by the NYPD in some respects. In other instances, it will be there is a clear systemic failure that includes the failure to support the NYPD. In other instances, it is a completely gray area where,
at least to us, it's hard for us to understand exactly what happened or why it happened or what else could have been done or what could change in our society or in systems to make things like this not happen. And it's been very interesting. I feel like it's been very educational. It's definitely, it's stayed the same because it's something we've done every week, although it has changed because I feel like I've become more comfortable just talking about this, and I've found different ways I feel like I've just learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would encourage anyone that's interested in listening to these to listen to them. Our podcast is often very like fun and cheery. And these are not, because they're about people being killed by the police. So if you are going to go and listen to them, just be prepared that that's what we're talking about. And we're happy to engage people in conversation about it too, as much as anyone wants. We're definitely interested in continuing to learn and grow our understanding of those situations.
Yeah, we'll add a link to that. We will also add a link, if we haven't already, to the episode we did very early on, before we even started walking, about defunding the police and what it means. Jesse did some fantastic research on that, and we discussed it together. And that is an aspect that at some point we'll also touch down on YouTube, but probably post-project.
Yeah.
In some fashion. And so that's that aspect that has stayed the same. Number 3 is the coronavirus, which we didn't expect would last this long when we started the project, I think.
No, yeah. We first of all, when we planned the project, didn't think there'd be a pandemic. Then when there was a pandemic, we were like, all right, maybe this will be over in a little bit and we can start. And then it wasn't going to be over before we started. And then we started and thought, okay, well, maybe this will last for the first half. And then the second half, we'll be able to do all the stuff that we thought we could do. And obviously that's not the case. And it turns out, by what's being predicted right now, that maybe right around the time that we finish our project will be when things sort of start stopping.
Yeah. It is was completely unanticipated when we were planning the project that this was going to be a thing, obviously. And it will end up being one of the dominant themes of the project. People.
Yeah.
We will certainly, anytime people ask us what we were doing during the coronavirus, we'll have a particularly unusual response for them. And I think that people looking back on this time period will see that this project was a major experience of it. So.
Yeah.
And it has colored our every interaction with every person. People watching this right now, people on the street, it has not changed at all. Our all collective understanding of it has changed in really interesting ways as we become familiar with the idea of everybody wearing a mask and familiar with the idea of the specter of death around our lives and not being blown away with 500,000 people dying. But, as far as its presence, it has not gone away.
Yeah, no, it's very much still happening. On a rainy day, I just tuck a dry mask into my pocket so that I can replace it halfway through the day. These little things that, didn't expect to be, and now are just part. Now it's it's going to be weird to stop doing these things. It's been so long.
Yeah. Number 4, things that have stayed the same, are clothing. We are now entering our spring season, which will actually be the re-premiere of our spring clothing.
Yeah.
We premiered our clothing on a live stream video a year ago. I don't know what the exact day is, but pretty close.
Yeah, it might have been almost
we
exactly
can link to
a year
it.
ago.
We can link to...
No, I think it was on the day that we were going to have an event. It was the 13th or the 14th.
Okay, so more than a year ago. We can link to that video. We can also link to the premiere trailer of it. And we've been able to largely maintain, I only say largely because in the winter in particular, we were not doing the one uniform a day as much. We had all the clothing at our disposal. We were using all of the clothing. However, particularly when it was really, really cold or really snowy, we prioritized functionality over the idea of wearing one of the different 5 outfits each day of the week.
Yeah, like for example, there were a couple weeks where it was like snow every day, and I tried to wear some light pink sweatpants, or like, you even call it like a sweatsuit.
Yeah.
And they immediately, just like, even though it wasn't snowing that day, from the dirty snow, like the whole bottoms got all stained, and I just, even though that is kind of interesting, maybe, like to see how the clothes deteriorate from walking in them, it wasn't really a thing for summer and fall.
Yeah.
Like my clothes didn't really deteriorate wearing them 15 times. And so I just didn't want to ruin my my like nice light pink, like bubblegum sweatsuit in the second week of winter. And so I started wearing my snow pants, which are part of my outfit. They're floral snow pants, but I just wore them every single snowy day, and then would wear like a different top and jacket from the winter collection. So a lot more mixing and matching, I'd say. And then the occasional extra hoodie layer thrown in on the days when it was 20 degrees or something like that, just to stay warm.
But the clothing...
But other than that, the clothes have stayed the same, and it's actually kind of incredible. I feel like there's a lot of clothes that I picked because of the function, like the tier system, right? The functionality is like at the bottom, but even though I was picking clothes that were vintage or made in the US or whatever it was, like that are high up on the tier, I was also trying to pick clothes that would be comfortable to walk long distances in.
Yeah.
Not like spandex joggers or something, but like, just like not so tight pants or something like that. But a handful of my clothes are just like, well, this doesn't feel like it's going to be comfortable, but it's too cute to not, like, I just like it so much. And even those have been fine.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes back to like our bodies changing, where it's been fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have largely fulfilled our theory that the most communication that you do with people on the street is through your clothes.
Oh, sure.
And so we have definitely encountered people who are interested, especially in the hats. Once the hats came into play, when it got cold, they became a conversation starter at least once a week.
Yeah, it's so funny how often people are like, what's that? Or what are those orbs?
Yeah.
What's that logo?
Yeah.
You guys in a band? Are you is that your uniform?
Yeah.
It's funny when people say, is that your uniform? Because we're like, well, yeah. But it's like, I don't think it's not what they mean.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, that and the rain gear as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rainy days when we're all like in our crazy rain suits that have the HV logo on the back.
Yeah.
People comment on those too.
Yeah. So that's number 4. And number 5, our last one of things that have stayed the same, no surprise, the walking.
We're still walking.
We're still walking. We have not deviated from the amount. I mean, we've gone over on a number of days, 26.2, but we have not gone under on any one day.
I did.
When's that?
Once.
When?
3 weeks ago.
What's that?
3 weeks ago, I missed a walking day.
3 weeks ago, and I think everybody's familiar with this. We don't talk about it explicitly because what we consider to be the minimum viable product, the minimum threshold for this project, is that one of us walk a marathon 5 days a week.
Oh, that's true.
We have never missed that. I have walked all 5 days every week so far.
Yes.
Fortunately, I have not been incapacitated in any way, which was the reason why we made it so that the minimum viable product was that one of us walked, just in case something like that happened.
Just in case one of us got sick or something.
And so Jessie, she walks 3 days a week because she's also running a dye studio the other 4 days a week. And yes, so she missed one day 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I got really overwhelmed with the deadline and thought I'd still be able to do it all. Turns out I couldn't. And yeah, I felt really bad about it. I felt like I'd committed to do this thing and I had to make that choice. I could have not made that choice, but it would have meant that I was going to fail pretty severely at my other job, my job, this isn't a job, but at the other thing I'm doing, the other thing I'm committed to. And yeah, I didn't feel good about that, but I needed to. I needed to for the other commitment I had made. And yeah, that's why I ended up walking an extra day this week by myself to
That's
make
right.
up for it.
So
I did 4 days this week.
yeah. So ultimately, the obligation that Jessie set out for herself and that we agreed to on the project, which was for her to do 3 walking days on any walk week, was fulfilled. It was just deferred.
Yeah.
And so, I don't consider that to be somehow lessened in any way. She did the route, which was the Writers of Manhattan week. She did that by herself on Monday. And this was her first week of walking 4 days.
Yeah. And I think it's okay, but it's also like, it's worth just saying, like, okay, so some people will hear this now, but it's also worth just saying it as like an understanding of like what it means in general to commit to walking 3 marathons a week and running a dye studio where you're producing 2,000 garments a season. Like,
Right.
like it's kind of a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And so I guess this is also just like a little diary entry to be checked in on at a later date when I'm thinking about overwhelming myself with projects.
That's right. And if you are a dyer and you're thinking about walking 3 marathons a week, take this advice from Jessie.
Just, no, I mean, what's the advice? It's like, yeah, like you can do it. I mean, actually, first of all, if you're a dyer, you live in New York City, get in touch because I'm looking for an extra hand at my studio for the next season. That would be my advice, though. Also, if you're a dyer and you have a huge dye project that you're working on and you also want to do long distance walks with the person that you love, just make sure that you have like enough help to make it all happen. I do have help. I have wonderful help. The people that work with me are incredible and talented and fun and nice and put up with my stress levels last month, which was kind of unbearable. But yeah, I need a little more help. So.
Well, we nevertheless...
Put your resume in the comments below.
That's right. That's right. Type it out.
No, just send it to me personally.
But yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so whatever.
The walking itself has remained
We've kept walking.
intact.
We're still walking.
Yeah.
And we plan to keep walking for 3 more months.
We plan to keep walking. I don't feel any need, despite the appeals to having more drama in our recordings. I don't feel any need to put that added pressure of drama on what we're doing. We will not have accomplished anything until we've actually done it, as far as I'm concerned. We have 13 weeks to go.
Yeah.
And to rest on our laurels is not what we're looking to do. We still have 2,000 miles to go. And
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will. Spring is going to be great. I'm excited for spring.
Yeah. Spring, which was not our intended plan. We were planning on ending this week, but instead we got 13 weeks, and I think it's going to be great to be coming up into the warm months as we conclude this project.
Yeah, I think it'll be really nice.